I have Dimebag Darley in the house.
Hey, everybody.
And what is today's date?
Today is September 21st, 2018.
The year of our Lord.
Yes.
And today's guest, all the way from Maryland, folks, is Dr. Jason Nichols. Do you have his bio ready for us?
Dr. Jason, Professor, let me get that right. All right, I don't want to mess this up. Professor Jason Nichols is an academic and artist with a range of interests which includes black masculinities, hip-hop and dance, bullying amongst emerging adults, black and Latino identities and relations. He is a full-time literature and African American studies department at the University of Maryland, College Park, and was the longtime editor-in-chief of Wood Beats and Life, the global journal of hip-hop culture, the first peer-reviewed journalist of hip-hop studies. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Thank you, and welcome to the show, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, prior to the show, we had a nice little conversation, and I want to continue this conversation with the world now. All right? Tonight's show, we're going to focus on solutions. We all can see the problems, and thank God the listeners on this program, they're already caught up to speed on all that. So we're going to go past that, and I am once again so thankful for Professor to share his time Friday. So, without further ado, do you have any questions?
Yeah, we'll go right on in since we got an educator on the phone.
Yeah.
And we were having a conversation prior off air about the lack of educational opportunities with young black males in our public school system. And it was one other thing that really struck me when I was looking at a lot of the data, Professor, and I read this one article. It was explaining like even programs for gifted kids, even if a young black male has already proven that he qualifies to be in this program and would succeed being in this program, he's 2.5 times likely not to even be put in that program. So that's where it feels like most of the time when you're a young black male, it's basically all you're doing is just trying to survive and stay out of jail because you're at a loss right from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So we had something actually out here in Maryland, in one of the more progressive areas, where say you had two students, one, they both had maybe a C average, and you were able to take honors courses or college preparatory courses, and they would steer the white kids towards the white male students toward the college preparatory classes, and steer the black one toward remedial classes, even though they had the exact same grade, because there was this perception that the black student had less potential for growth. Mm-hmm. We see this all the time. This is something that's been happening historically, and a lot of it comes through some of our unconscious or implicit, I won't say unconscious because I think sometimes people are conscious of it, but I would say implicit biases that a lot of people have, even through black administrators and black teachers have about black male students. So, I think that one of the things that I think needs to happen, there are people who challenge the idea of implicit bias, but I think we really do need to train teachers not only in, the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, but I think a lot of teachers also need some kind of multicultural training so that they know how to teach students of color and that they recognize the potential of students of color and don't try to hold them back. This is something that's been happening for far too long, and we know that that black male students in particular, so this isn't just racial, it's gendered, have been held back because people don't believe in their potential. And so it's time for teachers, and coach teachers not to just think, oh, well, this kid is going to be a great athlete, but also to recognize that this kid could be president of the United States. Obviously, right now, the president doesn't actually take a whole lot of intellect, but at least our black president had a lot of intellect, and so I think we have to really, really make an effort. And the one thing I will say to your audience is, black parents, you have to be vigilant about your children's education. Don't expect the school system to do it for you. I'm right now at a friend's house. I'm here in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. And now there's a small black community out there. But do you think here in this area where we're about 20 miles from both Maryland and West Virginia, in this area, there are going to be teachers that have their biases. In this area, you get Klan flyers passed around regularly. Literally, the Ku Klux Klan is very active in this area. So do you think that some of those teachers aren't in the Ku Klux Klan, or at least have family members, or haven't been taught by those same people and have the same ideas about your son or your daughter? Now, eradicating them is going to be really difficult. What you can do is be vigilant. Say, no, my son is capable of taking an honors course. My son is capable of higher expectations, and those are not going to treat my son as if he is not capable. Yeah. So I think that's where we as parents need to really take a stand and put our foot down.
Yes, doctor.
And another thing I found that I have a son, and I know how my son was when he was younger. Now he's much older now, but when he was young, that little dude from the time he woke up until the time he passed out for the night, he was at 100 miles an hour nonstop. And I know even with my son, he wasn't even getting adequate time at recesses, because little boys have a lot of energy. And they don't if they're not getting a proper amount of time at recess to burn some of that energy off, it's hard for them to even sit still in those classrooms to even learn. Not that they're not capable of learning, it's just they got a lot of energy. And I'm starting to see it even more and more with more and more younger kids that's coming up now. That the males have a lot more energy.
But that energy is being effeminized. We have the Tyler Perrys of the world. We have the RuPauls of the world. We have just little soft, moist brothers of the world making all the bank now. They're the ones who the doors open wide for them, and they can come strolling in. Whereas if you're a strong alpha male, you get in there, oh, hell no, you ain't going to put on the dress. You're not going to go along with the program. They're going to usher you side door, exit left, okay? So that being said, can we all not be in agreement until we fix this economic thing? Because a lot of this stems directly from the 70s welfare programs. As long as the man's in the house, sister, sorry, you can't get help. But as soon as you get this raggedy motherfucker out, you can get all this and that.
They was doing that. They was doing that stuff before the 70s.
But can we recognize that economic benefit to not having this dude in the house has directly contributed to a lot of our young men not having the guidance that they need and deserve as human beings in this world.
Right.
All right? So the economic solution to that, honestly, is to set up programs that benefits the brightest and smartest of us. I'm not talking about just giving, this whoever $20,000. No, that's retarded, because all that's going to end up doing is going right back in the system, and the individual will be no better for it. But we can certainly have, dare I say, collective or socialized programs or incentives for people to develop their own brand, to develop their own record label, to develop their own food, to develop their own healing techniques. And all of this will be subsidized, quote unquote, by the federal government, just as the federal government subsidized Boeing. The federal government subsidized all these other defense contractors. And not only just defense contractors, but also in the private sector as well. The internet that we are enjoying right now, directly attributed to tax dollars in the development phase. But do you see how it's been subverted? Now with net neutrality, the private corporation gets all the tech, and you guys got to pay for it, you fools. We got to quit being so mad and start being what's in our collective interest. And I can't speak to everyone in the world because we do not have one true world government. We only have our nations, which is basically our cell blocks. So, all I'm saying is it should be in our best interest to ensure that the descendants of the slaves, the descendants of the native indigenous peoples of North and South America should be left to the wayside in favor of robots, in favor of genetically improved human beings that are coming down the ladder. All right? You think that this DNA...
So what do you think about... So, Professor, what do you think about automation?
So, what element of automation? Because when I think about automation, my idea is that they're gonna, or at least, what I've read about automation is more about, jobs, and the fact that, a lot of jobs that used to be done with human hands are gonna be mechanized.
Yes.
I think that honestly, there's no way around that. That is coming. That's in the future. Capitalism is not benevolent. What capitalism is about, and of course we know the roots of capitalism in this part of the world, and actually for the entire, now industrialized world, the roots of capitalism is slave trade. Yes. That's what it is. Yes. And as a matter of fact, when you're looking at capitalism, which means it's about exploiting human labor.
Yes.
But once it becomes not as profitable to exploit human labor, they're going to use machines because it is cheaper and gives a bigger bottom line.
Yes.
And again, I know it sounds cliche, but we all know the story of John Henry, and, we kind of thought, that wasn't going to happen.
I'm sorry, Doctor, but would you please share that story? Would you please share that story with the listeners?
Sure, absolutely. So, it's the old legend about John Henry, who was a big, strong, strapping man who laid railroad tracks, and he was able to do it faster and quicker than any other man. But then they came with a machine that could do it quicker than he could. And he ended up working until he actually died there on those tracks and still couldn't outwork the machine.
Yes.
So, again, there was a lesson in that story that eventually this mechanization and automation would come. There's no way, to avoid that. The only way to avoid that, or to make sure that we keep, is for people who are sensitive to the needs of certain communities, people who are usually the ones who do a lot of low-wage work with their hands, is for our people to start, their own businesses. Now, again, I would say, I think you brought up a couple examples. If you go out and learn a skill, carpentry, plumbing, HVAC, those are things that are never going to be. If you're not the doctor, lawyer type, you want to work with your hands, there are certain skills that you need. And I think that, if college isn't your lane, then starting your own business can be your lane. I know lots of guys that I knew growing up who make more money than I do, and they're master plumbers.
Yeah. There you go.
And they are, they're carpenters, and they're electricians. Those jobs are still needed, and it's very difficult for a machine to do those jobs, contractors.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I know is I bring in guys, to help fix my house, and a lot of them are not black. I think what we need is more black businesses that take advantage of those markets that will never be mechanized. It will always be a man's hand. And certain things that cannot go in and explain to a machine how to fix the light fixtures in my house, or how how to install, recessed lighting in my kitchen. I can't explain that to a machine.
Or how to install that
I can't explain that to a man. Right. Exactly. So I think, for people who aren't necessarily looking for higher education, and there's a lot, trust me, there's a lot of money. Anybody who's done any kind of kitchen remodeling or anything like that, there's tons of money in those kinds of businesses. And, one of the, I will say about our brothers, our Latino brothers, is that, a friend of mine, father was undocumented, was an undocumented Mexican immigrant, came over here, started a construction company, hired other Mexican immigrants and Salvadoran immigrants, and everybody spoke Spanish, so, you weren't really a Spanish speaker. It was hard for them to even employ you, even if they wanted to. And it's a thriving business, and they pay their workers really well, and their guys get hired who are literally fresh into the country. Right. And I think that's admirable. So I think we need to also find that same format where we hire people from our community.
But Doctor, on that note, I have to speak to it. We did have that. And what happens when Mr., like you said, when dude comes in with, 100 guys, they all speak Spanish, they can undercut me as a native born that I have to pay my guys a certain wage. I have to live my certain self. So let's just take a typical drywall job. It should only be like maybe $4,000 to $6,000. These cats will come in. I can do that same job in like half the time because I have this massive manpower over here for like $25,000, $3,000. Boom! That just hit my bottom line as a Native American. Meaning I was born here, I was raised here. This is the only culture I know. And this guy is, like you said, he is undocumented, right? So if something jumps off in this country, do you think he's going to pick up arms to help defend America? Even if you believe America's worth defending or not, do you think that he's going to pick up arms and help? He's not. He's going to bail out and go back to his land, and we're going to be fucking destroyed. That's what's coming.
See, brother, I disagree with that. And I'm saying that as somebody, again, just a little bit about me. I have some, I have to put my biases out there. I have strong ties to the Latino community. And I will tell you, a lot of my friends, one of my best friends, we haven't been as close recently, but one of my very best friends in the world, fought both in Iraq and Afghanistan and came here undocumented.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So,
and that's admirable.
You can't challenge it.
That's
and it's as patriotic as it gets.
But I'm talking about as a group, like you said, they help out other Spanish speakers. I know a lot of brothers in L.A., you can't even go to some certain neighborhoods because your ass will get beat the fuck down just being a black guy. They look down.
Yeah, no.
A lot of Latinos look down on us because of the propaganda. Blacks are just lazy.
Sure.
We're just that and the other. And there's kind of a deal going on. And no one's talking about it, but we talk about it on this show, the other morning show. We talk about it to our listeners, all right? Now, listen, I don't look at nobody, after talking with Jane Elliott, that race shit has to stop. We're all fucking human beings, period. And I want all human beings to prosper. Seriously, I really do. And I want these fucking governments to stop making these damn wars so that our men and our women, and in some cases our children, die for fucking nothing. Like right now, can you tell me, how come the veterans of the First and Second Gulf Wars aren't getting a check from Halliburton in perpetuity from those oil proceeds that they got? Because they got fucking billions, and the veterans get shit. Because I have a man right here who works at a facility that sees them being denied their benefits. Tell them.
Oh, yeah, I see veterans go in there all the time and get denied benefits by other veterans.
Right. So you want to sit here and down Kaepernick for kneeling, still showing respect for the flag, but these people don't even understand the day-to-day turmoil that being a veteran sometimes gets you. Now, obviously, for a lot of us brown and melanated people, the military is a great way to get out of poverty, systemic poverty, that has actual forces ensuring that you stay in poverty. You go to the military, you get your little GI Bill, you get your little trade, you get your little sense of respect and honor. Because
I want to cut you off. When you go back to the GI Bill, when a lot of black veterans came home from fighting in the Second World War, they were eligible for the GI Bill, but instead of the United States government handling that side of them being able to go use that money to buy homes and stuff, they let the banks do it. The banks discriminated against, and this. What I'm saying is like that. A lot of other groups were able to benefit from that money that was given to those veterans, to where black veterans wasn't. So there's no wealth passed down, and it's like, and it all goes back to the little black boys in the schools. The majority of them come from single parent homes that are in poverty.
Right. Because nobody on welfare is getting rich. And I know, Doctor, you would agree with me on that.
Oh, absolutely. And look, I'll go farther. Than that and say nobody working a job is rich.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
You really can't. That's one of the biggest capitalist myths of all time, is you can get rich working a job.
Yes.
Perhaps, if you're LeBron James, you can. But even LeBron James got rich from his entrepreneurial pursuit.
Yes.
But unless you're an NBA athlete or, I don't know, hockey, I don't know, maybe some other sports, but generally you will never get rich from working a job.
No. And this is what I'm going to say right now. That's why we should have across the board a livable government, the Federal Reserve off our fucking shores, make the Department of Treasury print our money. We fucking use our own military as the force behind it. You fuck with the new dollar, we'll fuck you up. And every American should get a livable wage. And you can, anything above that, then you go out and you seek your job. And then it doesn't matter if there's a racist boss out there, because you know that your lights, your water, your health, a little entertainment, blah, 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 is already taken care of. And I think that would actually work. And it will have to work when automation truly kicks in, because there won't be any jobs to do.
Right.
And we all know that you go to jail. Like Judge Joe Brown said, the jails are here to, whenever labor gets too plentiful, you can remove people and put them in jail, basically warehouse them until we need them back out.
Well, all the jobs are in the prisons. That's where all the manufacturing jobs are. They're in the prison.
Doctor, I do want to ask your opinion. What do you think about the private prison system in America, privatized prisons?
Oh, well, when we talk about private prisons, we have to understand that, there is, it goes back to literally the period, following slavery. People have to understand that there was a period after slavery. If you talk about how black people were viewed during slavery, one of the things that is misunderstood is people didn't say black people were lazy or violent or criminal. They said they were loyal and dutiful and respectful.
Right.
It was after slavery ended, and you're afraid. The white men, they were afraid after slavery.
Yes.
So after slavery, you're afraid that, like anybody would be afraid, they're going to get some get back. They're going to want to come back at us. We treated them pretty badly for a long time. The other thing you're afraid of is that they're not going to work. I've lost all of my low or no wage workforce.
Yes.
So that's how you get a new system that came along called convict leasing. Where literally the system, in the South, and by the way, anybody who's been down South, if you've been to Georgia, literally all of the roads were made with convict leasing labor. If you have been to Alabama, what's the city? Birmingham, Alabama. The entire city was created by convicts, all black. And what they would do is they would find you for some minor crime, usually a nonviolent crime. So they would find you, of stealing, or they would accuse you anyway, of stealing a fence post, stealing a watermelon, public drunkenness, vagrancy, stealing a pig, whatever they would accuse you of, and give you a very long sentence. And the difference is the convict leasing system was actually, and I know some people are going to be real surprised when I say this, but it was worse than slavery. And the reason I say that,
Doctor, in what way?
So the reason I say it was worse than slavery, because remember what slavery was about. In our country, we had chattel slavery. Chattel means property.
Mm-hmm.
If you are my slave, you are my property.
Mm-hmm.
Now think of all the things that I can have as property. I can have a horse. I'm not going to go out and kick my horse. It's my property. I own it. I'm not going to go out and kick my dog. It's my property.
Oh, shit.
But if you are leased as a convict, if you are leased as a convict, then you really have no interest in keeping that slave alive. You can mistreat that person, that convict, 100%. You can mistreat them and have them work them to the bone. And if they die, guess what? They've already picked somebody off the street. And I'm paying the government, $30 a month for the labor. Government's making money. With the money that I paid, they just replace them. I have no vested interest because that person isn't my private property. You know what I mean? So all they have to do is pick up somebody they said was drunk off the street, and I can literally put them in a mine, like they did in the Deep South, where they would put you in mines, and people literally had to drink out of the puddles in the mines. They whipped them to death. They did terrible things that you would never do to a slave. You wanted that slave to be in good health because you wanted them to last long. You wanted them to have children. You wanted to do all of that because that was your property.
That's horrible, Doctor. Absolutely horrible.
It's very true. So this is exactly, so fast forward to today where we have a private prison system. And mind you, there's so many elements to this that I can get into, but, you have a private prison system.
Get into it.
No
hold
where now, it's the same sort of thing. All these corporations are taking advantage of prison labor because they only have to pay a prisoner 30 cents an hour. Now, on the street, to give you that job, they might have to pay you $30 an hour plus benefits.
Yes.
And why do that when I can pay a prisoner 30 cents an hour? Because, of course, according to the 13th Amendment, you can still be a slave.
Yes.
If you are in prison for a crime, as punishment for a crime. So, again, it's no mistake that black people are the people who are filling prison and jail.
In
addition to that,
we're still John Henry. We're still fucking John Henry. We're the biological robots to these evil fucking pricks.
Absolutely. And even, this goes into voting. Think about the blackest state in America, Mississippi. Mississippi is 38% black. That's the blackest state in America. Mississippi is solid red on election night.
Wow.
One of the things we need to realize is that 30% of the black males, of voting age black males in Mississippi, are unable to vote because of a felony conviction.
Wow. Say that one more time, Doctor.
Think about how that turns a state. Yeah, so 30% of the black males in Mississippi are ineligible to vote because of a felony conviction or incarceration. So that means that a state that is solid red could be blue or could be whatever color you want it to be, but they make it solid red. It was another way of taking away our enfranchisement. So think back to slavery and convict leasing, and you had Jim Crow. There were all these different ways to keep black people from voting, keep black people, in service for low wages, not being able to own businesses. But now you've got this new system you've got a new way to do it because the Constitution of the United States allows for it. So you not only are you taking advantage of their labor, you're also taking away their citizenship rights. Now, mind you, 2 states in this nation, one of them being Vermont, the other one, I think it's Maine and Vermont. What people don't realize is in Maine and Vermont, you can vote while you're in jail, while you're incarcerated. You can vote while you're in jail. Now, the reason for that is because the thinking is you don't forfeit your citizenship just because you're incarcerated.
Right.
Now, think about the fact of who lives in Vermont and Maine. It ain't us. You
Right.
know what I mean? So they still have their rights. It ain't us. That ain't Mississippi. We're talking Vermont and Maine. So, I think it was Vermont is less than 2% black. I don't know what Maine is, but I think Vermont is like 1.something% black.
Wow.
And that's why people were saying Bernie Sanders is having a tough time connecting with black voters because he's from a state where there are no black people.
Wow.
Now, the other thing that I will tell you about the prison system is now there are new ways of abusing people while they're in prison. One way is now, these private companies who run the phone line. Now, I was watching recently, LeBron James has a new show it's about the little kids playing football in Miami. I think it's called Warriors of Liberty City. And there were these young black kids, and they were talking to their fathers, and some of their fathers were in prison. And now, the only way that you're in prison, particularly because a lot of times prisons, like if you live in Washington, D.C., close to where I live, if you live in Washington, D.C., all of those crimes, there's no prison in Washington, D.C., so you have to serve it in another state. So they're probably going to send you to, Kansas or, they're going to send you far away. Even if you live in the state, you're going to go to prison somewhere that's hard to get to. If you're in the federal system, you can end up in Leavenworth, and you're from New York City, so it's like you can end up in Terre Haute, Indiana, and if your family is poor, you're from the project, I think it's the projects in Harlem.
You ain't getting nobody.
How is your family supposed to make it to Indiana a couple times a year?
They're not.
They don't have that kind of money. So the one way, like in the show, the LeBron James produced show, the only way that they maintain their familial bond was through the phone. That was the one way that they were able to. But now these phone companies are jacking up the prices of collect calls from jail. So it's like 25 cents a minute. So you can't sit there. Now these kids can't even sit on the phone with their parents. Their parents can't call them up there after school. And so it's more of the kind of separation that our families suffered during slavery. Yeah. When, as Frederick Douglass talked about him being ripped out of his mother's arms. Now you got, and by the way, the fastest growing prison population in this country are black women.
What?
That's what people don't recognize. They make it all about men. The fastest growing prison population in this country, in the penal system, are black women. Now, losing your father is traumatic enough. But imagine as a child losing your mother. My kids barely, even when I'm there, if my lady is out, if she's, out with friends, going out to dinner, and I try to put them to bed, they're like freaking out. They're like, "Where's mommy?" And I think I'm a pretty good dad, but they need mommy there. It's just something comforting about that.
Yes, sir.
And if your mother is in the prison system, and we see because they don't treat black women as women, you see how they actually take black women and they get prison sentences. There was a woman who got a prison sentence for trying to vote in a different district.
What? How long did she get?
I think she got a year.
Oh, my God.
Or maybe it was 5 years. I got to check, actually. But she got that. There was somebody who got a prison sentence for trying to register their kids in a different district of schools so their kids could go to a better school. They sent that woman to prison.
Nothing wrong with that.
You know, and yeah, you got people like Brock Turner, you know, who sat there and raped the girl, dragged her behind a dump, you know, and inserted stuff inside of her vagina. And that guy does 90 days in jail. Never went to prison. Never saw the inside of a prison. You know, you got all these other kids who have committed serious crimes. And, of course, we have a president who's been accused of 19 different sexual misconduct acts that are crimes.
I'll say it. Grab her by the pussy.
Never gone to prison.
Right. You're absolutely right.
He's never, you know, the system. What do you think, you know, a black man that got accused 19 different times of sexual, you know, misconduct?
I think Bill Cosby.
He wouldn't have got that far because after the first time they would have just put him in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, Bill Cosby, let's say Bill Cosby got away with it for a long time. You know what I mean? He got away with it for a long time, which, you know, had to do with, I guess, him being rich and famous. And again,
Bill Cosby didn't have his problems until he tried to buy NBC. Then his son dies, and then they utterly destroy him, ensuring all of his wealth goes to his Jewish white lawyers and back into the system.
Yeah, see, again, I'm going to disagree there because Bill Cosby was doing some wild stuff. You know what I mean?
But how did Bill Cosby help the average young black man?
Bill Cosby,
you know, pull up your pants, eat pudding pops. You know, he pointed the finger at a lot of us.
The people that would have helped Bill Cosby, he shitted on them.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
I absolutely agree with you.
And that's why Bill Cosby suffered the fate. He filed himself. Listen, you can be the bourgeoisie all you want, but once you about ready to check out this motherfucker, your ass and your wealth is going right back into the system that allowed you to come up, you token fool. You got to understand.
Right. And that's the only reason that I don't accept these, because the system loves guys like Bill Cosby. Now those conservative black dudes, the system loves guys who come around and say, no, it's not racism because you won't pull your pants up, which is nonsense. Yeah. The system loves to hear that from some black guys. So they love Bill Cosby when he's like, oh, nah, it's because you talk wrong, or, you know, or it's because you won't pull your pants up and all this kind of nonsense. So the system loves those kind of guys. So they weren't out to get Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was just a dumbass and was out raping shit and putting him to sleep. You know what I mean? Like, if he would have just, you know, like, just done what the rest of us would have done and been like, look, I'm Bill Cosby, sleep with me, and be awake, it's fine.
Doctor!
Yeah, like, you know, Bill Cosby would have had